Hello gamers, so some of you might have seen that I've been doing a character jam, which is like a game jam but based in character design for some of my students. What I thought is I would go over a couple of tips and tricks in case you're struggling or wondering where to start. And the reason we've launched this is because number one, we thought it would be really fun for our students, and number two, the spring break was coming up, and so rather than letting your skills go rusty for 2 weeks, the idea is that this would be something to take your mind off of university projects or any projects you're currently in. It's a nice way to just flex those design muscles on a really short, succinct project. Starting from the 25th of March and running until the 7th of April, which gives roughly 2 weeks for our students to complete this task. We're currently at the halfway point now, so there is just a week left. The idea here is that students can participate as much or as little as they like, depending on their current workload. You know, maybe they've got other modules to focus on. We're coming to the end of semester 2 shortly, so they might be thinking about their final major project more than they're thinking about this, and that is totally fine. And for you, you might be more focused on work at the minute. This is just a little something you could do if you feel like you want to be involved. So the theme of the character jam this year, so this is the sort of brief that we're working to. This is the Legend of King Arthur. The reason I chose this is because there's a lot of sort of archetypal characters in the Legend of King Arthur. I would say almost stereotypical in the way that these things are set up. We've got the hero's journey, we've got some betrayals, we've got overcoming those things, we've got a final battle. It's very fantasy centric. If you're interested in folklore and you want to read more about this, there are loads of different stories out there about Arthur, loads of different retellings and versions, but I won't go into too much to that. I will show you the slide here that shows the lore. This was just a quick breakdown we gave our students, but you're more than welcome to use any of the lore that you find or find interesting, totally up to you really. So the brief here is that you can make 1 to 6 characters from Arthurian lore. They should look like they live in the same world, and what I mean by that is they should all look good in a lineup together. They should look like they belong in the same genre together, but that genre and theme doesn't necessarily need to be Middle Ages, which is what we've seen in a lot of the paintings or historical art from this time. Instead, you can add your own second layer of interest here, recognizable more as their archetype, but we don't necessarily have to copy, it doesn't have to be Middle Ages. This again is a challenge, right? We should be flexing our muscles, we should be trying to synthesize, we should be trying to create new and novel ideas. So imagine, again, I say this to my students, imagine this is a new game that's coming out. We're taking these 6 characters, but we're putting them in a new world. So let's introduce our main players. What I've done here is made some character sheets, the name of the character, a couple of sort of keywords and their role in this story. So we have King Arthur, who's the hero, the ruler of Camelot. He's the leader, he's the chosen one, he's strong. We have Merlin, who's his mentor and advisor. He's wise and guiding and ancient. We have Lancelot, who I've sort of named as a sidekick here, but he's one of, I guess, the main sidekicks. He's a knight of the Round Table. He's valiant, chivalrous, but he's conflicted. Some of that conflict is because of Guinevere, who is our maiden, the Queen of Camelot. She's romantic, she's regal and tragic. Morgan Le Fay, or Morgana, is the antagonist, Arthur's sister. Sometimes in the story she's framed as a powerful dark magic enchantress. She's cunning, enchanting and mysterious. We have Nimue, the Lady of the Lake, guardian of Excalibur. She's mystical, she's a guardian, she's serene. Sometimes she's connected in the stories to Merlin as either a mentor figure or as a lover sometimes. We have Mordred, who's our main antagonist. Arthur's nephew, sometimes son, is a dark knight of the Round Table. He's a betrayer, a villain, unholy. And then we have the Knights of the Round Table. Sir Gawain, Sir Galahad, Sir Percival, Sir Bedivere, Sir Kay. There are many of them and they each go on their own sort of story. They each have their own unique quests. Some go look for the Holy Grail, some meet the Green Knight. There's multiple different stories you could really read into here, but what we're looking for is if you pick 1 to 6 of these characters, we'd like to see them in a lineup at the end, like a really nice character design lineup where they all go together across the page and we feel like they live in the same world. I've also done a little map here of how everybody sort of connects. I also made a mood board, and the reason for that is I used some of the art that we've already seen of these characters, of Nimue, of Morgana, of Arthur, of Guinevere, and I wanted to show the art that we currently see. So a lot of it is very Middle Ages, late Middle Ages, some of it is Renaissance. And then what I did is I made some starter ideas. Feel free to use any of these. And that was the first presentation that I gave. Now I'm going to jump into tips and tricks and what I would do if I was taking part in this. So one of the first things I do is I create a mind map. I start to think about the theme. So I'll give you an example of what I'm currently working on, and that is I've decided that I'm going to make this Arthurian Camelot, but set in the Wild West. And so I started thinking about archetypal characters and like who we normally see in these situations. So of course, I feel like the obvious choice is that Arthur should be the sheriff. Then I started to think about Merlin, and I started to think about sort of older characters in these stereotypical roles, and normally there's some sort of wizened old, I want to say drunk, but normally it's a prospector who has drunk a little bit too much, has been there for too long, trying to find fame and fortune in the West. And that's sort of how I start. I start with a mind map, I start thinking of character archetypes, I start thinking about maybe not really personality traits just yet, but I start to think about like who they are and how they fit in the world and the relationships to each other. Then I start making mood boards. I go from a mind map into a mood board, and so I've created mood boards for each of these characters, mostly just looking at visuals that I wanted to make sure got into my sketches, using either archetypes or like interesting pieces that I thought like, oh, that corset or that holster or that sheriff's badge would be interesting, and piecing it all together on a mood board. Mood boards, by the way, are about vibes. They're not about accuracy. A call out sheet would be more for accuracy. You would say, this is exactly what I want this piece to look like. So these mood boards are just about like the vibe of the character. Future Sally here, cutting in to say I did a 10-minute rant about each of these characters and went into the mood board in way more depth. If that's something you'd like, I can absolutely make that its own video if you want, but I thought for brevity and for the sake of time, have a look at the mood board. You can kind of see my ideas. We'll move on to the next step. Once I've got the mood boards, then I start sketching. So for Arthur is where I started, because I feel like he's the main character, but also I feel like he's the most vanilla of all the characters. Like I kind of know exactly who I want him to be, and I want him to be this charismatic, kind of go-lucky sheriff who has become mayor, maybe not through the fact that he should have been made mayor, but through the fact that, like, you know, he happened to be in the right place at the right time. Maybe he's just this charismatic character, and so maybe he's a little bit cheeky. He maybe doesn't take the job super seriously, so I wanted to make sure that got brought in. And I start sketching poses, and I start with poses because I already know from the mood board kind of what outfit I want him to wear. I kind of know where I'm going with the clothing design, so I was like, okay, well, I need to bring his personality through something different, and I think the pose is a good place to start. Again though, he is our vanilla character, I would say. I wanted him to be quite stable. He's our mayor, he's our sheriff, he's our, you know, stable character. Like a quiet confidence from him, so I was looking for a pose that would really sell that. I started out with this sort of like cocked hip, then I went to just like a straight, just like a slightly wide stance with his legs, and then finally I got to this pose where he was like throwing his Winchester rifle over his shoulder. And then the more I started thinking about the rifle, the more I was like, oh, I really like this. I don't think he's a pistol gunfighter. I think he's a rifle shooter. But that's sort of where I started with this character. Then I work on the line art. I haven't quite got to colors yet, but we're only in week 1. So I've kind of got one character locked in. I might not get all 6 done, you know, like we're trying to do this while also working full time. I know my students have hand-ins and deadlines, so I'm not expecting everybody to get 6 characters. The challenge was 1 to 6. But that's where I'm at so far with week 1. I really hope that's helpful. If you're wondering how to start, it's mind maps, mood boards, pose or character sketches, and then starting on the line art. That's sort of how I go. But let me know if you would like any more tips or tricks on how to get started with quick character design.